All right, Randy, we're on the road to WrestleMania, ladies and gentlemen, and certainly we are now 40 days away, which means we are closing down the stretch to the final 30 days, and we're going to certainly talk about what happened, what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything else in between. Of course, we do that now each and every week with our senior wrestling analyst. He is also the co-host of the Hockey Fan Chat, and he has also dabbled in the world of wrestling himself. He is our world heavyweight champion, also our 14th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, none other than Mr. Randy Dillon. Randy, happy Monday. Good to see you, and how are you?
I'm doing good, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. Always good to be here once again on a Monday night. Usually I'm on Sportswire today, but actually I was kind of in between, waiting to go on, waiting not to go on. But that actually is good because I'm actually refreshed for a first time in a long time. And to talk things about everything with you, my friend, is always a pleasure. So, I mean, Randy Dillon, I guess let's start from what we just saw as we went off the air. It was Cody Rhodes, a rather defiant Cody Rhodes, claiming he's hunting the bloodline. The bloodline aren't hunting him. And what did you think? And anything else you might want to say in terms of this Cody Rhodes battle with now The Rock and Roman Reigns?
How can you not love this right now? What you're seeing from Cody Rhodes, this passionate, aggressive side from him, something I don't think we've seen in a very long time. Go back to his possibly, maybe I can't recall if we even saw this in his time in AEW when he was running the show there. Like it's just a
Mhm.
different side. We're seeing Cody Rhodes where the fans are fired up, seeing him where he wants to take down the bloodline. This is very similar. I think when we saw with 99 with Stone Cold wanted to take down the corporation, The Rock and
Yeah,
Mr. And
98, 99. Yep, good
the
point.
Mr. McMahon Senior. We can still say McMahon because Shane McMahon had nothing wrong, had done nothing
Yeah,
wrong in
it's
our eyes.
funny. He's the one McMahon I mean, he must have got lucky. I mean, he's actually unscathed. I mean, he's the one member of the family that, I guess seems like, all right, maybe he knew something that nobody else did, I suppose.
No, exactly. So it's really interesting. Like I think what we're seeing is Cody from this year to last year, the different Cody Rhodes. From I even heard what he said. He's like, there's some things I should blast about Dwayne, The Rock, things
He held
but
up. He was a
yeah,
fan of his, and
mhm,
he talked about tickets, and now he
yeah,
knows better than anybody.
mhm.
And The Rock was the guy that sold the most
Oh
tickets,
yeah.
basically.
No, exactly. And I think this is going to set up for a very interesting road to WrestleMania here. The one thing I kind of wish we saw at the end is Jimmy, no, Jay.
Yeah, you were kind of waiting for that
Yeah,
moment where, okay, the quote unquote police officers get beat
yeah,
up, and you were thinking, okay, at least we were going to see Jimmy. Obviously, The
yeah,
Rock we weren't seeing. He's
yeah,
advertised for SmackDown, but you were hoping for something. And we didn't get that, but what we
yeah.
got was Cody basically killing those officers and
Mhm.
Heyman kind of looking on as if, he doesn't know what to do. He was hoping, obviously, that Cody would fall into the trap, and Cody certainly did the complete opposite of that. And we were left with, I guess, wanting more into Friday.
Yeah, I think there's something going to definitely held up on Friday because this wasn't even a Heyman calling out for Roman Reigns or here for Roman. It was him here for The Rock. So it goes back to this side: is the allegiance of the bloodline turning to the bigger star, the bigger powerhouse, The Rock?
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, The Rock, and again, if you go on that based off what Cody said tonight in basically addressing Heyman to the bloodline, yeah, you would have to say that there's a door open, maybe, but we still have to hear what The Rock says Friday on the show. And I would imagine he's either opening or he's closing.
I would guess he's closing it. Definitely going to be about Cody's challenge for him. Because listen, The Rock, we know he doesn't come back often to have matches on Raw or SmackDown. When was the last time he even had a match on Raw and SmackDown? So since 2003 against
uh,
the Hurricane, maybe.
yeah, I was gonna say I would have to say '03 because we know he had the one match at Mania 20. He
Yeah,
came back in the runs in the early part of the last decade, but they were just pay-per-views. He might have been in a maybe a tag match or a mixed tag, maybe it's Survivor Series or some type of pay-per-view. I want to say maybe, and he had the quote unquote one match with Eric Rowan that was literally a rock bottom
I
and
saw that.
yeah.
It was cool, but now you're looking back like, oh, what the heck was that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't much of that. So yeah, I would have to say maybe Hurricane Helms,
Yeah.
maybe Hurricane Helms. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that's where I go with it.
Exactly. And I think now we're going to see the egos kind of clash because, like I said, if Roman Reigns, he's been this top head of the bloodline, pretty much running the company. We saw last year with when he was butting heads with Jimmy and Jay, which ultimately set them apart from him, but Jimmy went back. And I think now what's going to happen here with Roman, and because is he going to feel like the tension getting taken from me? Should I be the star? Are there going to be some bickering back and forth?
So in your opinion, okay, let's go with that for a few minutes and we'll say hello to some people and see if they want to join the conversation. So who is then the chief, you might say? Who is the alpha? I mean, I think we spoke about this before, but who is it then?
I still think it's Roman just because he had the belt. He the belt holds the power. I think I remember Paul Heyman saying that.
Well,
It's
you
a
said
long,
it on Friday's show.
yeah,
It's the man that makes the title.
yeah, exactly. Roman has made that title, so he right now is holding that title very strong and proudly for the last 3 years. And I think if The Rock wants power, he's got to take that title from Roman one way or another.
Let me ask you a question. Obviously, it was kind of touched upon during the closing of the show and maybe a little bit throughout the telecast, waiting for Cody to come on. And maybe I guess I'll spend a few minutes on Grayson Waller and Cody, and I'll have a reason I'll bring it up in a second. You tell me what your thoughts are on a counter with that. But is it a possibility that we actually would maybe see Cody wrestle twice, day one and day two, because he still wants that match with The Rock? Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I could see it,
Because
but
like I said, it's not going to be on SmackDown,
yeah,
not going to be on Raw. So I mean, if Cody really wants to match with The Rock, wouldn't that have to be day one?
because yeah, there's so much going on with Cody and night one, Seth and night one, even The Rock and Roman. Because originally it was planned, oh, they're gonna do a tag team match to close out night one to set up the main event for night two. But now you have Seth versus Drew. Which, okay, what wrinkle does that kind of throw in the plan? Do I see them having a match this early? No, because if listen, if we didn't see Rock and Roman get their match this early, I'm pretty sure they will push Rock and Cody down the line. They have a lot of big international events coming up as well. So I definitely see, could we see it SummerSlam? Could we see it in Berlin? Could we see it in Paris? Like there's a lot of big.
But you don't think, though, considering The Rock's age and health and in the moment here, and we don't really know how, what The Rock is going to be in terms of the time that he's on TV, that they don't say, you know what, why don't we have it again? Day one, Cody and The Rock. Day two, Roman and Cody.
The only thing it doesn't make sense for me right now is for Cody to beat The Rock and Roman back to back. Otherwise, it kind of sets up, well, they're both losers at that point going after WrestleMania and Cody the top king. I think at this point, with my feeling, if you're going to get The Rock to turn on Roman, you got to be like, you couldn't get the job done. Now it's my turn.
Okay, fair enough. Let me get to some comments here. Want to say hello to my buddy Ethan Sorensen. Ethan's got a couple questions we'll go to. Want to say hello to my buddy Ron Franklin. Ron, how are you? Want to say hello to the coach, Chris Craven, of course, the 15th member of the Hall of Fame. And I guess if the coach does want to pop on, I would certainly give him the invite if he wants to talk and he saw Raw. He'd obviously be welcome because he's also in our Hall of Fame. So I will get to Ethan's question because I still want to get to my point about Cody, but I want to get to Ethan first. I have a question, Tom. What did you think, and along with Randy Dillon, of Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins' segment from Raw? And Seth saying how risks are worth taking. Good question. What do you say?
It's a very valid line there, Ethan. I think this is a valid line in life. You gotta take the risk for the reward. And I think right now, Seth Rollins did it best on Raw, where he's like, we gotta take this risk to take out the bloodline. Otherwise, they're gonna come after me. They're gonna come after you. And I think for Drew McIntyre now, listen, he's been taking big risk as well for the last couple of years, going battle with the bloodline, battle with Gunther and all that. And now, is he going to take that risk, or he's going to try to play the smart route to get that title? Because that seems like all he cares about right now in his moment. And heck, this guy's doing brilliant work. So we'll see. He's a wild card in all this. So we'll see where he kind
I
of
think
ends
he
up.
might actually, Drew might be having the best work of his career. I know he obviously had the title for a long time during the COVID era. But I think that the work right now that we're seeing from him, and everything he said, and even the segment that he had, with Jey Uso, we're going to see Jey and Drew next week. That's a really exciting match. So, I mean, those are things that I'm excited, but I definitely want to come back to Drew, but also I wanted to put on the screen here. Actually, in case you missed it, I am
I heard.
actually a member of a Hall of Fame. I am a member of the Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling's Hall of Fame. Obviously, we were supporting a show, a Fight for a Cure, young girl that has Ewing sarcoma, and yours truly had supported it very strongly in the show, in the card. It was a number of different favorites on Sportswire Radio who were there. We were very kind to be inducted into a Hall of Fame. I'm not quite sure I wanted to be in a Hall of Fame, but yours truly is now in a Hall of Fame. So I want to thank, obviously, the owners of Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling for inducting me in their Hall of Fame. I think I got like 67 likes on Facebook already on it, so I appreciate that. I might have got more likes on that post than the week prior, but hey, nobody's counting, but wanted to put that on the screen. Okay, I'll leave that off. If the coach wants to come on Sportswire, it's up to him. He can message me on Facebook, and I'd be happy to bring him on if he wants to hang out for a little while. But, I want to ask you something about Grayson Waller. And there was a segment, it's not so much about Grayson Waller. We knew that he was going to basically get squashed by Cody Rhodes. But are you think, I'm laughing when I say this, but do you think that we're possibly going to see Austin Theory versus Grayson Waller at WrestleMania?
I think
Because
maybe
there was kind of a tease. Didn't you kind of see that before the segment where Austin Theory kind of rolled his eyes? He didn't really go out there and make the save. We saw what happened at Chamber where Grayson kind of stood there while Theory got beat up. I mean, I'm just saying.
I could see the match, but in long-term thinking, I don't see Austin Theory as a babyface. I don't know if he's someone that connects with the crowd.
So is it Grayson Waller that becomes the babyface?
I don't even know he can. I don't think both these guys can become babyfaces, Tom. I think Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller reminds me of a younger Miz. He had the attitude.
Yeah,
he can
a little
talk
bit.
with the crowd, and I'm talking about the 2010, 2011, 2012 Miz. Not like
that was peak. Well, that was Miz when he was on the top of the card.
Yeah, he reminds me around that time, but he's not there yet. But I see so many similarities in what Grayson Waller can do, how he interacts, his in-ring work, that talk show, how he gets the heat, how he can get the fans going. He can do so much. I think it's more just picking one of these guys and who you're going to push at this point.
Theory got the big run last year when the U.S. title was kind of the main event. Theory had a great run. He had some big victories. No question, Theory was kind of on the run. Obviously a few years back, he was quote unquote the guy of that other person that we can't mention anymore, but he then kind of dropped down a bit. He was pushed back up, and he's kind of wallowed now since he's been on quote unquote Waller, but he's wallowed since he's gone on to SmackDown. He's kind of been stuck in this kind of moment, almost to quote you too. He's stuck in a moment or stuck in a middle of he can't get out of it. So, those are things we'll see about. Let me get to a couple more comments here. First, I actually want to give a shout out to a man I'm wearing a shirt of here right now, Mr. Jack Delta himself. Mr. Delta. I want to say hello to Mr. Delta because I'm actually wearing a Jack Delta shirt. Of course, when I had this shirt, was the XCW New Age champion. Of course, the man has won nearly 30 championships in his decorated career. He says, I thought that this before the run-in between Imperium and Judgment Day on Raw. Damian Priest is a very underrated pick to end Gunther's reign by cashing in. That's an interesting thought. Now, obviously, I suppose that Damian Priest could actually cash in on the Intercontinental title. And what do you say? That's kind of a clever idea there by Mr. Jack Delta, the destructive Jack Delta, who kind of gives us maybe a destructive idea to maybe somebody's booking sheets currently.
Jack Delta has a lot of points. Even when I saw the segment, this got me thinking because I'm just like, Finn probably can't go toe-to-toe against Gunther. Dom and JD combined couldn't go toe-to-toe with Gunther. I think Damian can push Gunther, but not toe-to-toe. In the briefcase, when they originally announced the match back in June last year, they said it can be cashed on any champion, not just the world title, the United States, the Intercontinental. And Gunther is pretty much at a main event level at this point.
Well, you have to think that if he was going to really transition to, let's say, whoever walks away from the situation on the Raw end with the world title, you have to think that Gunther would be the guy that could be the next or future champion there. I mean, he's right there. I mean,
they're
how
going to
much more,
Germany in August, so you need him to do something big.
and how much, and we know WWE has become extremely international. We saw what happened in Chamber. We're seeing what's going to happen in France. We saw what happened last year, obviously, all different places around the world, Canada, Europe. I mean, wouldn't it make sense for at some point soon for Gunther to drop the Intercontinental title? Because I mean, what more can he do with the title? I mean, we're not going to see a 4-year run here, I would think. No.
I don't know anything. If the way they're holding champions up these days, it's possible. But he's beating everyone: Raw, SmackDown, NXT. Like, there's really no one more to beat for him. So this might be the cleverest way to take the belt off him. But the one thing that interests me with Money in the Bank is we still don't know what Drew McIntyre's status is going to be post Mania. If he resigns,
I think that's the most fascinating situation. Is somebody not telling us something? I mean, is somebody almost playing almost something on the fans, or is it just they're really kind of going along with this? And because I've never seen this before, really. Maybe since I suppose Bret Hart, maybe. I guess. I mean, has there ever been a guy that could win a world title with a contract expiring? I mean, I don't, in wrestling history, it never works that way. I mean, I'm going back really like in our generation, in our era. I don't think I could think of really, not an angle, but more a situation that we're in like this, like since Bret Hart, because of obviously the famous thing. You don't want somebody to walk out on your company and throw the belt in the garbage, whatever it is. So, I mean, like, I just find that extremely fascinating right now.
it's so interesting. And not only that, like I see future storylines for Drew. I could see him going one-on-one with Cody. I could see him doing something with CM Punk. There's definitely other superstars.
Well, if he's got a contract running out, though, I mean, if the contract runs out before the time Punk comes back, what's the point of him going after Punk the way he is? I mean, this is why I think it's fascinating because, if you believe what you read on the internet, right, his contract is expiring in a few months, right? Yeah. So, I mean, Punk isn't going to come back to the ring until what, second half, going into the third quarter of 24. So how would that work?
I really don't know. Like, this is, I think maybe it's a bit, I think Ethan Thor said high risk is a high risk worth it. And I think this is a high risk WWE is taking right now. And I think it's paying off dramatically. Like, but I have to think Drew McIntyre is coming back at this point. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given him.
Listen, I know we're all wrestling matters on Sportswire, but I think we said this maybe on Friday's show. The last AEW Dynamite show before this past one drew pun intended, 3,200 tickets. And they said it was a hot crowd. It was a big crowd, 3,200. It was the fourth time they went to the venue. The first time that day was 4,100. The second time was 43 because it was right after COVID. People were just getting back to normal. The third time was 4,000. No, it was 3,300. Dropped from 43 to 33. And then it was 32. How could you go to a place where you don't know what your live gates are going to be like on your big shows, and you're already right now in the top storyline in the company on the Raw side? I don't know what sense could that make unless you're getting like $5 million a year. I mean, Tony Khan, I guess, could afford it, but the live gates do count for something, and AEW's attendance is dropping quicker than cement.
Exactly, and you can make the argument, all out Wembley in the UK. Listen, he had his moment at Clash of the Castle. Unfortunately, the end didn't go away the plan, but he had his big moment in front of his crowd, his friends, his family, to build it up. He knows he's not going to get a better moment like that, even if he goes and complete it all out in August. Like, what is he going to do at this point? Because there's other guys coming in, like a Will Ospreay, like, Okada.
It's too crowded. Too many people. We've been saying it for years. And before I get to comments, everybody that goes into AEW, it's like, okay, they get a 1-2 week run. And then, I hate to say this, I was listening to Jim Cornette's podcast this weekend, and he actually, it's kind of funny because he does the review of like all the shows. He was doing his AEW review, and he was talking about Adam Copeland, and he was like, Adam Copeland now is wrestling these indie guys, aka Daniel Garcia, and it was like, here's a guy that just was in WWE, he's one of their all-time greats, and again, Jim Cornette is no WWE mark at all, obviously, and he was talking about AEW, that he was there, and basically he's wrestling quote unquote indie guys, and he's in like squash matches or smages basically, and he's wrestling extensively. What does this prove? You're devaluing yourself. So I don't see really what the logic would be from Drew's side of it. But hey, what do I know? I'm not his agent. Want to say a little to my buddy D'Angelo LaFlame. Obviously, Resurrection show Lockdown I know is going to be released very soon in the next few days. I look forward to watching it and bringing on D'Angelo very soon as well. Ethan wants to tell me. Honestly, Tom, I would say that if WWE wants Damian Priest to cash in, I would say that wait until Gunther has retained his championship, and while he's still down, Damian Priest could cash in. Well, that's kind of what Jack Delta is basically telling us, the destructive Jack Delta. And Jack Delta is won over 20 championships in his career, so he knows how to win the big one. He would like to also say Mr. Delta, the destructive one, Jack Delta. And if you want to get a Jack Delta shirt like this, you can still get it on the XCW Shop Zone website. Make sure you go out there and check out their site and buy something. I think McIntyre is doing the CM Punk thing. And also, he's doing it because he's feuding with CM Punk. He's doing the 2011 walkout and riding that line of kayfabe. He's basically kind of like almost like what he's saying is kind of, it's like work shoot, put it that way.
Yeah, I could see it because the thing is, I know, like I said, I think I said this last week or the week before. I know McIntyre, he is planning to take time off because grandma's very sick and he wants to spend time with him after Mania. He deserved this moment, everything he's done with during the COVID era and everything else. He's been a team player. He's a big part of that company. And the work he's doing right now is just incredible. Like, how do you not give him the guy the moment regardless?
But then wouldn't that mean, from what you're telling me, that he doesn't win at Mania at the title?
I don't know if he wins or if he doesn't win because we know Seth is banged up and he needs to take some time off.
But if you're telling me between Seth and Drew, it's almost like, well, then maybe it goes back to Damian cashing in.
Yeah, I think that is the option right now. If he just, because we could see try to cash it on Gunther and it failed. Somehow it failed, and it's because from what I could see with Gunther as well, there's some other people lurking. We saw the return of Chad Gable, and we saw
Chad Gable talked tonight about his family being disrespected, and he talked in a way that said maybe you go back to him as a contender. Sami Zayn, I think, is another name you could throw out there that would be, Sammy's believable if you're going to go down that road.
So if you have some option to work on it, because we know Priest and Balor most likely is going to be in a tag team match with The Miz and Truth for the tag team title. So they're already booked. So where the cash-in going to come, he's going to try to do in the middle of the match. I still think it's going to be the night after Raw. Either you're going to cash in on Seth, an injured, beaten Seth Rollins, to kind of take the title off. We'll see what happens.
And and I want to also, before I come back to Jack Delta, Lockdown comes out tomorrow. Thank you, D'Angelo, and I will try to watch some of the show, and I know we will get you on before the 17th, and I'm going to take a quick detour because Jack Delta actually works for a company. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it real quick. Jack Delta works for a company, ROEW, that is actually apparently up for sale, and I don't know if I should do this or say this, but I don't know what Mr. Delta would think if, let's say, yours truly would be one of the contenders that might actually be interested in purchasing ROEW. So I don't know if Mr. Delta had a thought on that. I don't know if Mr. Delta thought it'd be a good idea if yours truly would be in consideration. But I am considering maybe an interest in maybe taking a look at the ROEW brand and what it would bring to the table, because I think that there would be some values in having live wrestling on Sportswire. And maybe some different things that we could work upon with the company. They're a great company, but obviously that would be something that I would like to, obviously see if Mr. Delta thought that maybe something would be off the air. He would think that would be a good idea on my behalf. I want to say hello to my buddy, Mr. TBK. Yeah, we'll bring you on maybe in about 10 minutes or so toward the second half. I'll definitely bring you on for sure. And I want to say hello to Nicholas Crenson. All right, so we got a little bit of the kind of men's side. But what do you now make of this whole situation? We're going to see Becky Lynch and Nia Jax again. And we're also going to see, it looks like Liv Morgan's in the background. So what do you think happens there? I mean, Liv Morgan had a little bit of an attitude tonight. And we're going to obviously see Becky and Rhea. But, what did you make of some of that tonight?
I could see Nia getting in because we go back to the history between her and Becky, the infamous broken nose. Nia Jax actually did beat Becky earlier this year, so that's a big win, and especially falling off after losing to Rhea at Elimination Chamber. Liv Morgan, that was very interesting because I know you have that story where Rhea Ripley did take her out, but I don't know if she had the momentum. She got a big win to qualify for the match, but let's not forget she lost on Friday night against Tiffany Stratton in a one-on-one match. Yes,
Yep.
she eliminated Tiffany Stratton, but I'm just not feeling the Liv Morgan vibe right now. There's just something that's not connecting with me
Kind
here.
of somewhere where you don't know where to place her right now in the card. Do you place her as a heel? Do you place her as a face? Because she certainly had a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what you thought there. And what do you think about Nia Jackson and Becky Lynch? I mean, that feud continues. Does Becky get a clear win to kind of give her some momentum into Mania against Rhea? Is that where you think this goes again?
I don't. I could see this being a triple threat match because I think this one, if you want to take the title off Rhea as well, then a good way to do it is for Becky.
So you mean to tell me that Nia Jax could get the title here? That's
No,
a
I'm
triple
not
threat.
saying Nia Jax could, but that would be something, Tom. But I'm thinking it might
She's been
be.
impressive. You can't
Yeah.
deny it. I mean, you can't
No,
deny her. I know people
exactly.
are not fans, but if it's a triple threat, wouldn't that be a way for her to take the title?
It's either her or Becky a way to take the title without Rhea taking the loss, and then again you can kind of put Rhea off TV for a little bit and set her up for her big return later down the road.
And didn't Becky have a contract situation also coming?
Yeah,
That's why I was asking you, because maybe it's not so far fetched that Nia Jax could win the championship.
yeah, Becky does have a contract stipulation coming up, but the other thing I would also mention is Becky and Seth. They have a young daughter, and right now they're spending a lot of time away.
Seth
So,
Rollins referenced it. Yep, he
so I
referenced it.
definitely could see them both taking some time after this to spend time with their daughter for a month or so.
Fair enough. And I want to introduce the 15th member of the Sports by Radio Hall of Fame, also right after Randy, and that his name is Coach Chris Craven. Coach, how you doing there tonight? How's it going for you?
Oh, I'm all right, man. I'm just been running myself rampant, just exhausted. Other than that,
Are you as exhausted as maybe those police officers that took chair shots from Cody Rhodes tonight?
sure. I don't know.
All right, fair enough. So give me. Well, I was trying to make a joke, but maybe it didn't connect as much as those Cody.
I
chair
haven't
shots.
finished watching Raw yet.
Okay, so give me your impressions of what you've watched so far.
Blah.
Nothing.
You have the New Day versus Imperium. I don't think that Damien's going to cash in on Gunther. Could be wrong, but I think it's going to be Dominic on a Raw versus Gunther as an attempt. Maybe pre-show Mania. I don't know, but I still think, and I still say this, and I'll stick by it until I see something different. I think that McIntyre is going to win, and Priest is going to cash in at Mania right after it's over, basically giving McIntyre his win, but then he loses.
Which would make sense, right? Because Randy talked about the fact that his grandmother's ill, wants to spend time with his grandmother. He's also got this contract situation. So is that proper to kind of go about it that way for you, Coach?
Yeah, I think that the cash-in will happen at Mania. He'll get his win, but then he'll lose, and then it'll set something up for a potential, like we've talked about this before, McIntyre and Priest, because that's something they've teased in the recent months. And I think it kind of makes sense. It gives him his win. It gives him his victory that means something.
Let me ask you one follow-up. I'll bring TBK in a second, and I'll get to a comment from Ethan Sorensen. Let me ask you this question, because obviously you've wrestled, you've done a lot, you understand the game. It's very rare for a situation for a guy, if you, again, nobody knows. We'll see what's to be the line. But if he doesn't have a contract extension with WWE, he's wrestling till his contract runs out. It's very rare for a guy that is in a top feud that could win a world title when his contract is unknown and if he'll sign with another promotion. And, where do you fall on that? If you don't mind me asking, do you think that he is you're truly really going to be a free agent, or maybe he signed a contract and they're just trying to play something on these, internet people that, read these different things on social media and, different things like that. You have an opinion on that? Because you're actually somebody who's wrestled and you understand, the behind the scenes a little bit.
I think that, well, the whole little Raw and contract, the Raw and SmackDown contract, little angles that they play with. Which show you going to sign? That never matters. That's part of the entertainment factor of the show. But as far as an actual legitimate contract with WWE,
Yeah.
ever since what was it, the early 2000s, that company is very big now on actual legitimate hard copy contracts. No more handshake deals. Oh, I have your word.
No more Lex Luger. Yeah, I'm gonna have a deal with you.
Scooter were so bad back then with those handshake deals.
Yep.
That
Randy Savage had one, and he was on WCW at the time Saturday night the next day. Yeah, they used to do it back in those days. Sure.
They don't play that angle no more. So I say they would extend him, get him to renew, but give him time off. I think they would offer him some sort of deal that compromises with what they want, but also with what he wants. I don't see him working without a contract, though. Period.
Okay, so
not with WWE.
So you don't think he's going to AEW, basically?
No.
Okay. Because I mean that's something
I think there are certain people that are in AEW that are trying to come back, and one very in particular that people disagree with me on is I think that Jon Moxley may wind up returning at some point.
Well, if you listen to Jim Cornette at all, I mean, he was just bashing Jon Moxley's most latest, match in the ring and what he's done in AEW. So interesting point. Let me come back to TBK in a second. Honestly, Tom, I could see Becky Lynch is going to get the advantage in the triple threat match, and then Nia Jax is going to destroy her, and then Rhea will most likely retain in the end. Okay, that's a reasonable point. Good to see you, TBK. I've heard through a birdie that you two gentlemen have actually seen each other in the flesh and wound in real life, but I'll leave that for a different time on Sportzwire. I heard you guys actually.
Oh, you know.
I mean, I would suppose. I mean, I haven't fully can confirm, but maybe one day, maybe we'll show something of proof. But
you didn't show the evidence. You didn't show the evidence.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't going to confirm it, but I mean, I've heard through the,
Oh, he knows who I'm talking to. You didn't show the evidence?
I figured it would have been two birdies.
Well, if you want, I could during the telecast actually put that up on the screen. So, I mean, stay tuned. I mean, that is a possibility. But until then, TBK, nice to see you. Obviously, it might be stay tuned for that. But, obviously, I'd like to get your opinions on some different things. We'll talk about, from your vantage point. What did you think on the main event tonight? Cody Rhodes going after The Rock and Heyman, and just maybe some of these other things on Drew, and just give me some of your reaction on that, because you've obviously watched the show, I would imagine, and anything else you might want to say toward that.
Yeah, so real quick, obviously no disrespect to Mr. Delta, but I believe it was me who said to you a while back that if they were going to have any type of cash in with Damian Priest, it was going to be against Gunther. Because like I said, so check this out. So Damian is, I'm sorry, he's still not main event caliber yet. The Judgment Day is, as we've all said, is knockoff Bloodline. But anyway, he's been carrying around that briefcase like a freaking prop. And if you want, Money in the Bank is one of your premier pay-per-views. You want that briefcase to mean something, then you got to go after a champion that's actually, oh my God, who's that fat guy? You have to go after something that's actually
surprise.
Yeah, right. There it is. You have
I know that picture.
You have to go after a championship. Yeah, right. I feel like I've been there. You have to go after a championship that's actually obtainable. And if you want your next up and coming champion to look strong, then go after the guy whose run hasn't been a slouch. Gunther has been an amazing champion. He's been a very dominant champion. If you want to give Damian the push, have him knock off the guy who's given the IC belt some relevance again. It just makes sense.
Yep, sure. No, I think that's certainly an interesting thing. You have to figure out eventually to get the title off Gunther and to see if you'd like to give him a shot in the main event, right? I mean, wouldn't that be a way you might want
Sure.
to, go with that? And but we'll come back to that in a second. But I have to ask, since we do actually have the photo up here on the screen, I was wondering. So when you guys actually met in person for the first time, so who had the first pleasantries? Who had the first actual hellos toward each other?
I mean, I had to knock on the door, so I would I would say, I guess it would have been me,
He did have to knock. I don't know, but
so you don't leave, so you don't just leave the door wide open for him to come in. Leave the door open for everybody to come in.
No. This is
We expect maybe more pleasantries to be exchanged in the future with you two guys.
I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, we're literally freaking 40 minutes away from each other. It's not that serious.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, let's hope it stays that way. But we'll actually pull this off the screen because I think we kind of got the idea. And for you, TBK, what do you think on the women's side? Randy and I were talking about just before you came in there. I mean, do you see Rhea hanging on at Mania? Do you see a triple threat? I mean, Nia's, in there. She's definitely may have a case. She was in there in Chamber, and she's still feuding with Becky. And where do you see that going?
I mean, there's no denying that she's part of the equation. It's fair to say that Becky's had her moments now. So does she need another championship reign? Probably not. But we are getting a decent matchup between her and Rhea. I don't know. I'm not too sold on Nia yet. I mean, I know once again they're trying to showcase her as this dominant, crazy force of a woman, and you hope to God that she gets through a match without hurting anybody. So I mean, as long as she can do that up until Mania, maybe you put her in. Like if she continues to prove that she's safe, and if it makes sense, I mean, maybe.
Is there a believability? Let's say she's in the triple threat that she could actually walk away from this as the champion on the Raw end. Is there a possibility?
I don't know, because if you look at it right, you like the people who have made their returns. I mean, to shoot her up to that level already, to be like, okay, how long has she been back now? A couple months?
6.
No, it's 7 months, right?
Yeah,
Like
7-8 months, I would say.
Yeah, about 7 months to throw her into a what is going to be obviously a meaningful Mania match.
The meaningful slotted match, sure.
Yeah.
Meaningful in the card.
Against Rhea, who has absolutely put the freaking women's division on her back and has represented it very, very well. I mean, for God's sake, she is billed as a heel and people love her.
Yeah, we talk about it each and every time we're on the air, that basically fans they've taken a liking to her. Maybe it's the look, maybe it's what her dominance has been in the ring, maybe it's just the story and the believability of her, and the fans really behind her.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I don't know. That's why I'm not okay. Maybe you give her the spot to round out the match and make it more exciting, but to come back, I mean, only be with the company again for 7 months and have that kind of opportunity and to slap a belt back on her. No.
The only thing I would say is Becky is still not re-signed. If you going down this road, and if you want to see what somebody else could do other than Rhea, then maybe you make the change and see what Nia could do as a champion. I mean, she's been there before in the slot, so it's not far-fetched. I'm just, thinking out loud, is there a possibility? I mean, I don't know if I really care one way or another. I think personally Rhea should hang on to the title for a little while longer. I think she's done a good job.
Yeah.
I think can kind of go from there with that. But we are on Sportswire Radio. We're talking all things related here to the world of wrestling with three of my guys here, of course. Randy Dillon, our senior wrestling analyst, also host of the Hockey Fan Chat. He's also dabbled in the world of wrestling. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Randy Dillon, Dhillo, and he's our 14th member of the Hall of Fame. Our 15th member of the Hall of Fame, his name is Coach Chris Craven. He says he's the only Craven, but there is somebody else currently that is a Craven, that is a WCE Interstate Openweight champion. He won the championship a couple weeks ago. He is back on top, and that is Craven Rage. But he says he's the only Craven, but you never say never, I suppose. And of course, the host of the Be More Talkative podcast, Mr. TBK, and of course, obviously, Coach Craven and TBK are neighbors practically. They're buddies, and my name is hopefully your buddy, the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. If you like what you hear from us, you want to hear podcasts like the Hockey Fan Chat, like the Be More Talkative podcast. Coach has been on a couple of these different shows. You can check it out at sportswireradio.org. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content. We also are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. You can check us out. We have got nearly 600 subscribers now. We're on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, Twitch at Sportswire Radio. We are also on a number of different platforms out there, so please check us out. And I want to thank everybody for our support. And I'll be back on the air tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with the Blaze Ace Christian. He is the VTW Reunion Rumble winner. He is apparently one of the youngest Rumble winners in history, and he's going to be here live with us. We'll also have more coverage Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. with Justin Parsley, one half of the XCW Tag Team Champions, who will be wrestling the Foundations, Omen Black and Soldier GP, for his Tag Team Championship. We're going to get the rundown after encounters, and Justin will be here. But a slew of other great shows are ahead. But right now, we are here with Randy Dillon, Chris Craven, and TBK. And I also want to hear from Ethan Sorensen. I would say if the WWE wants either Nia Jax or Becky Lynch to win, I think that Becky and Nia should both take down Rhea. And after she has been beating down Nia Jax, and Becky Lynch is going to finish. A lot to unpack there. What do you guys make of that?
Nia Jax is a force, Ethan. I'm sort of saying, like, I could see it more of Rhea and Becky taking out Nia Jax, because as much as Rhea's impressive win, listen, she just beat Nia Jax. Like, she was getting dominated majority of that match on Saturday, and then Nia still had that victory over Becky on January 1st. So I could see both of them trying to take out Nia as being the dominant force right now she's been.
All right, let me ask you guys. Let's roll back the videotape a little bit, if there's still such a thing as videotape. What did you guys think of Elimination Chamber? I mean, first of all, did anybody actually watch it in real time? Because I figured that. I figured that was my answer. I was going to get. But what did you guys think of the Chamber?
So it was pretty good for the show they put on. It wasn't like they did miss some big names, but it was still a pretty intense show, entertaining, answered a lot of questions. Overall, I would give it a solid 8.8 out of 10.
I saw, Coach, you were shaking your head first. What would you like to say before I go back to your neighbor?
Yeah, I watched it in real time. I personally, one thing that stood out really, really bold to me was the fact that what happened with Logan Paul and Orton in the Chamber match. With
we could talk about that next, sure.
With Orton, with Paul taking a shot at Orton like he did and costing him. And I remember watching it and thinking to myself, are they really going to throw Paul to Orton? Because Orton's going to run over him. I mean, thus far, you've had a lot of guys put Paul over, and you've had a lot of guys help Paul get through.
Reigns, Orton, Rollins, Ricochet, Owen, sure, Mysterio. Yep,
even nice. Roman, like you got some guys that have been there, but Orton's been there, 20 plus years. Like Orton's, as a fan, not as analyzing wrestling, as a fan, I was like, the first thought in my head was, Logan's a dead man for what he just did to Orton. Because Orton's going to bite him back.
Oh, yeah.
It's just in his character. He's going to bite back. And I'm waiting for that to happen.
Does Randy Orton, for you gentlemen, need the United States Championship?
He doesn't need it, but I was interested when I saw that, because I really thought we were going to see LA Knight. I said it on Friday. We were going to see LA Knight, Kevin Owens, and Logan Paul at WrestleMania. It looked like we're going AJ Styles and LA Knight at WrestleMania, which I'm like, okay, I could see KO getting his moment, but then Randy Orton, him knocking out Randy Orton, I think was a big shocker because I'm like, okay, are they going to do a triple threat match with KO then, or where did that kind of put him at this point?
Orton, I don't think Orton's ever had the U.S. title.
He has, he did.
Yeah, he had the U.S. title. He had to have had it.
2018, he beat Bobby Roode for it.
Yeah,
in
I was gonna
March.
say the same thing. He had it in that run. Remember when like Roman Reigns might have had the Intercontinental title, or it was like in that run where the Intercontinental and the U.S. were kind of almost like with main event guys. I mean, John Cena was feuding for I think one of the titles at one point. I mean, so yeah, I think he did have the U.S. title. I was gonna say yes. He didn't have it early in his career, but he won it, like you said, in that era.
Yeah.
17, 18. You wanted to say something, TBK? What do you think on this whole Logan Paul? I don't know, Randy Orton. I suppose we're getting a 4-way match, maybe Owens, LA Knight, Orton, Logan Paul. What does it do for you if that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, so I saw a lot of people say this after Elimination Chamber went off the air, and I think myself and all those people had the same exact thought process on Elimination Chamber, if you could sum it up, which was solid but very predictable. Would be that entire pay-per-view. The biggest shock being the Logan Paul Randy Orton thing. Everything that we thought was going to happen, literally right on down the line, happened. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, they put the United States Championship on Ray for a while, and I don't think that Ray needed that belt in particular or a belt at all after just being, inducted into the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. So, I mean, if it's if it's becoming a Hall of Fame or future Hall of Fame title, then maybe, I guess. But
that's why I don't remember. It was 28 days. I just looked it up. He was a U.S. title holder for 28 days.
Well, I mean, let's think about it real quick. That was before now where everybody's champion and you can't get the title off. That was still around the era. Maybe you could have a title holder for.
It was 2018. 2018, he held it for 28 days.
28 days. Well, maybe it was the longest 28 days of his life. Who knows?
I don't know.
It's like I don't remember him ever. Like it wasn't memorable.
TDK, I'm just going to add something to you because you mentioned about Rey Mysterio holding the U.S. title. For me, I think it was more for him holding it to set up that whole big feud with Santos Escobar, but unfortunately the injury hurt him. For Orton winning the title, I'm just wondering, like, where does he go from this? You have him on this big return at this point for him to either hold the title for a long period of time or to him to drop it to someone else. For me, I just find Randy Orton holding the title really doesn't do anything. I rather you either keep it on Logan Paul for longer or you give it to someone like Kevin Owens.
Let me ask you guys a question, which some people might say I'm nuts to say it, but what say hypothetically a Logan Paul, let's say pinfall victory over Randy Orton? Wouldn't that do something in terms of the market of mainstream ability of Mr. Paul? And if you really wanted to down the road, maybe make him a world heavyweight title contender.
Well, I mean, Logan's already gotten the seal of approval from Paul and Sean. I mean, maybe if
it would have to be his biggest win to date though over Randy Orton. I mean, Randy Orton's a 15-time world champion.
What I was gonna say, I mean, is if Randy agrees to put all over Logan, then that's your third pretty big seal of approval right there. And I mean, if Randy is in that position in his career where he's ready to start putting over younger talent and up and coming guys, then I mean, it's undeniable, even though the guy's a something bag.
I mean, everybody I speak to off the air, when they ask me about wrestling, they say, I hate Logan Paul. I hate him. I don't know anybody I've met that I talk to off the air. And again, I try to be impartial about these things because, we do so much on Sportzwire in the world of wrestling. I know you could say that because that's what you do best. That's why you're in the Hall of Fame, Coach, for everything you've done in the ring in the business. You certainly are entitled to that opinion, but I don't know of anybody that I've met that actually likes Mr. Paul.
I mean, I've seen a couple of his podcasts that he's done, and you know what? Off of when he's in character, and he's great at what he's doing. I can't take it away from him. I've seen him doing, like I said, some of his podcasts. The guy is intelligent. He's really well spoken. He obviously has built himself, quite an empire over there with Prime and his freaking podcast and everything else. It's not outside of the realm of possibility to say that maybe way on down the line, because there's definitely more deserving candidates, that he's already a pretty big face. There's not a lot of people who don't know his name. So, I don't think, and again, you can't take away the fact that his in-ring ability has been very impressive.
Oh, I think that what he's done in terms of his condition,
Yeah.
I think what he's done in terms of his applications to it, I think it's very admirable. I think that, he stepped in there and he's, certainly held his own. I'm just thinking out loud, would it be a stamp of approval? Or, maybe you go to LA Knight and give him a title and give him something to say, you know what, you've been the Yeah movement.
Yeah.
You've gone out there. The fans love you. You've been right up there in merchandise. And let's give you a seal of approval, because I think a U.S. title would do a lot for him. I don't think the U.S. title in Owens does anything for him at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Randy and Coach talked about Orton being the U.S. champ for 28 days. I just don't see Randy Orton being a United States champion. Though Ric Flair, before his career was supposed to have ended in WWE, was the Intercontinental champion for a while. So, these things do kind of happen. I mean, you even remember Bret Hart had, quote unquote, a U.S. championship run in 2010.
Let's not talk about that.
But, the point can be made that, Randy Orton theoretically has a shot, but I think LA Knight getting the seal of approval, winning the U.S. title, would probably give him a stamp of approval for something for what he's done. Conversely, what is it, about 7-8 months he's been in the top of the card? Let's give him something that could maybe cement his status. I mean, that would make the most sense to me.
Yeah,
Tom, I'm going to add on to TV.
Go ahead, Randy.
Go ahead, Randy.
I'm going to add on to your point with if Logan Paul beats Randy Orton, this is a huge, I don't think, thing for just win for himself. It's a huge thing in the industry where they're saying this guy is such a big talent and attraction. We're willing to put something on him, and I think it sends shockwaves in all the wrestling industry to other companies like TNA, AEW, saying, "Listen, we have this mega star who the people know and who can actually get people attention. We're willing to bet everything on him." So if he can beat Randy Orton, it literally sends a message saying, this guy's legit and he's going to carry our company, because apparently he wants to do this more full time from what I've heard.
And wouldn't that be a way to kind of cement that by getting a win over a 15-time world champion and maybe, outside of Charlotte Flair, the only person that could theoretically break Ric Flair's record in championships? I mean, that would certainly do the world in that. I mean, or you go the safe route, in terms of maybe LA Knight, give him a bone. But just real quick before I get to Ethan, I mean, I do kind of agree with you, TBK. I think that it was the safe route they went, but again, they're 6 weeks until Mania. Did anybody think there was going to be major shocks at Chamber? Did anybody think? I mean, even like last year's show, was there any major shakeups? I mean, not too often. Maybe a few years back when The Miz won the title at Chamber when he cashed in. I mean, that's the only other time I can think of that maybe there was a shakeup of recent memory, but there isn't too many at Chamber. Think of Chamber like when you had like No Way Out back in the day, or you had an In Your House like right before Mania. I mean, historically, we never see that many shakeups. So I mean, I think that was kind of what we expected. Am I missing something, anybody, before I get to a comment?
No, I think right now they're playing it. I think the situation with Randy Orton is that, he came back at a time where everybody kind of has their opponent right now. So what do you do with him? And like I said, I think he's coming off a serious injury. If they're being tentative with him right now out of respect to the injury to make sure that he can still go when it counts, then fine. I don't think, and like I said, him putting over talent right now, it's still freaking Randy Orton at the end of the day. It doesn't hurt him at all.
Well, and I think that if we've noticed how veterans are used, I mean, that's, what they would be. Let me get, though, to Ethan Sorensen. Honestly, Tom, I could see the WWE doing a fatal four-way, but I would have it in a ladder match for the United States Championship. Logan Paul versus KO versus AJ Styles versus Randy Orton instead of a normal match. So why AJ Styles here?
I think with
Why
AJ
AJ
Styles
Styles?
attacking LA Knight, but I
I
think
think that's the match should go with
you have
Styles
to
and
throw
Knight.
LA Knight and make it a 5-way.
Okay. Or do you go triple threat Paul, Owens, Orton, and maybe do Styles and Knight? But I would like to see Knight get a title shot. I don't know. I mean,
I would too.
or do we go Styles and Knight at Mania and Knight gets a convincing win over Styles? Because nobody believes AJ Styles can win a big match at this point anymore.
I don't know. I think AJ Styles might, because his contract's coming up as well, and if you want him to say he's still, because AJ Styles still have something to offer I think.
Absolutely, but he
yeah.
hasn't won a big match in years. When was the last time AJ Styles won a major match or a major feud? I couldn't tell you the last time.
Yeah, you
have to
been a
think
minute.
about it, right? You have to think about it. I mean, that's a problem. I mean,
Finn Balor maybe last year against Finn Balor, that was maybe it.
I feel like he's another one though. Like, is he with the OC? Is he not with the OC? Is he cool with the OC? Is he not with the, like
the brothers are going to NXT now. It looks like, because they've been just,
yeah.
What have they really done of note since they came back to WWE? I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, it's again, like Randy was saying, at the end of the day, it's still AJ Styles. He can
absolutely.
He's
for
in
sure.
phenomenal shape. He can still go. If they were to put him with LA Knight, I mean, I think it would be cool just because it gives LA Knight a legitimate opponent. You don't want to just throw him in there with anybody. But I mean, like I said, I feel like right now, and even, the only guy who was ever really going to have that big moment, it felt like, was CM Punk. So it feels like guys like Randy and AJ, who are, again, making the big, the comeback off of injuries or whatever, they're kind of just, we'll use you here. And then once we get past Mania, maybe we'll have something for you type thing.
Fair point, and I want to congratulate somebody who just had a show, and I promised him I would watch it after I'm off the air. That is the hardcore king of Tennessee backyard wrestling and hardcore wrestling. He is Hollywood Atomic Titan. He is their hardcore champion. He says, stopping by to say, "Oh yeah, I saw through the grapevine. Who did you have? C2K on the show, and you had the Zack Attack. Did maybe anybody else pop on? But I will definitely check that out. I'd be curious what you guys spoke of, and I know we're gonna have you here on the 14th of March, 2 weeks from Thursday, to induct you into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And season 8 is kicking off soon for TBW. So thank you very much for the Atomic Titan. James Taylor did. No comment on that. James Taylor, I'm not surprised that he showed up, but he is certainly the talk of the backyard wrestling world right now, because he was actually speaking with the ESW champion of the world on Instagram Live. But that's certainly a different time for a different place. And I see the coach is not interested, so I'll move off that topic for a few minutes. But okay, I was like, because you and James Taylor are good, right? You guys are good?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to know. Good to know. I want to make sure that
But I do have some things to touch on what you guys are recently talking about. I was just kind of being patient.
Well, I want to give you the floor. I'd love to hear from you.
I don't think. Okay, so as far as Randy Orton's concerned, Randy Orton is a talent that, you get 20 plus years. He's been putting over talent for at least the last decade and a half. He's been
worked with Matt Riddle for sure. That was certainly yeoman's work.
Orton is that kind of guy that I won't say is an Undertaker measuring stick kind of talent in a locker room, but he is a locker room leader.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he's a veteran. He's somebody that's he's somebody's stamp of approval, could make or break a talent if he opened his mouth and said something,
Mm-hmm.
And Orton has proved that he can put guys over. He has no problem putting guys over. Orton reminds me a lot of Steve Austin with the whole, I play the game as long as it makes sense. But he also once in a while will do the thing that he doesn't agree with if it makes it's good for the company. He's a team player. He's a company guy. And we talk about Logan Paul and his status and what he needs to get a bump or a rub or whatever. You got to think, Logan Paul has been in a WWE title match with Roman Reigns. He's been in matches with Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio. He's done all these big pay-per-views. I mean, it may not be a lot, but he's got a good handful of main event caliber matches under his belt. So to say that he needs something to arrive or to solidify him, he really doesn't. He's proven, and the company has proven, that they can take a guy like Logan Paul, an outsider like that, with an incredible amount of talent, and they put him in his spot, and he can deliver. So I don't think that he needs any kind of, like, He doesn't need any kind of achievement or accolade to show or prove anything. He's kind of already done that. And even though I don't like his gimmick, I don't like his character on screen, the man shows up and he delivered, and he's made money, and he's brought a lot of eyes to the product. And there's a lot of people out there. Yeah, you're like they don't like him, they hate him, both in the ring and outside the ring. But he has delivered. He doesn't need. I don't think he needs something.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. You'd have an interesting perspective on this. Why do you think Logan Paul has worked with his push when Austin Theory hasn't?
I think the company right now has no idea what to do with Austin Theory. And I'm going to go and I'm going to say his name. I'm going to say his name, and you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it.
I was going to say.
Understand, Austin Theory. They did the same thing with Austin Theory they did with McIntyre. Back in the day, Vince McMahon brought McIntyre. You heard me. Brought McIntyre in.
Junior, they're the senior McMahon in the.
Good point. Randy. That's why I liked you, Randy, for all these years.
They brought McIntyre in as that was his chosen one, right?
Yep.
And over the last 2 years, they played that with Theory. He was the McMahon's handpicked chosen one. And I think it's kind of funny is ever since this thing with McMahon started, a little over a year ago, and he's been getting out of the company.
Year plus.
Theory his place in the company has been going down.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't know what to do with him. You got him with Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller was a talent that was supposed to come up from NXT and go up.
He's another one that hasn't. He's another one that
4 months they've had Theory and Waller playing butt buddies on TV every week.
But they've tried with Theory. Theory, he's been rammed down our throat a few different times. And I was just curious because you've been in it, you've been in the game, and Logan Paul has worked and Theory hasn't. Okay.
I think it's stale. I think they don't have a good idea on where to take him. I think they're just kind of putting him on as a filler on card. Until they figure out what to do with him, and maybe he's one of them guys that goes back down to NXT. I don't know, but I mean, Theory's a good talent. He's got the capabilities.
He's got the look. He's got the age on his side. I mean, he's not bad in the ring. He can talk. I mean, he's got what they look for in the factory line of talent they produce. But like I said, they've tried to ram him down our throats, and it hasn't worked. But Logan Paul seems like him or not, that he's kind of worked. I was just curious just what you thought on that.
He gets real heat. Like, that's the difference. And I'll say take you to where John Cena, when John Cena did his thing with Theory last year. He came out and cut a promo, and he basically told Theory, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe.
But Cena gave the ring endorsement of Theory.
Right.
I'm going to add.
Think about the difference between Theory and Paul. Theory comes out, and you can believe it. That you can believe as a fan, as a spectator. This man can be a dick. He can sell this.
Yeah, I agree.
Theory's like, he's out there. He's just, He's trying good enough.
Dismiss. You want to say something, Randy?
One thing I'm going to add with Theory and Paul. Paul took a couple of big losses and was able to kind of come back. Austin Theory, we got to remember the tour down they did. They made this guy a laughing stock trying to cash in on the United States Championship and failed, and they had to pretty much rebuild him. They did. The thing they screwed up was him, and after that win with John Cena, he was off TV for a full month. So he had all this momentum coming in after beating WrestleMania, and 1 month later he returned, and it's just like, and we completely, and everyone forgot. They're like, wait, you're still here. You're still the U.S. champion, and he was kind of feuding with Sheamus, team was pretty deadly. It's just like they killed all his momentum because even before Mania, before he challenged John Cena, he had it. Like I think.
Yeah, he was on the main event for months on Raw. Remember, the U.S. Championship was the main event on Raw. It was, for that period of time when Roman was the only champion. I was just curious, what you guys thought on it. So obviously, switching gears here, going toward the remaining part of the show. Obviously, we switch now going into SmackDown. What do you guys expect and what do you guys are looking for coming up here Friday night on SmackDown? I see TBK, you're moving in here first before I come back to Randy. What do you think here as we go into SmackDown on Friday?
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see The Rock's, tirade on Cody's challenge and all that stuff. I mean, like I said, everything right now is feeling exactly the way it's supposed to be. It's very storybook. It's very textbook. It's everything we've been building to. And I mean, if all goes as planned, we're just gonna be on that train until Mania right now. So I think
40 days now, 39 now, technically in the East Coast, 39 days.
I think we're just all like Rock said, just shut the hell up and enjoy the ride that the Rock's taking you on.
I just want to say one thing before I bring to the rest of the guys. You know what I thought was funny when Heyman, I know you haven't seen it, Coach, but Heyman had the two phones and one Bloodline cover and the Rock cover. I mean, that was hilarious. I got to be honest. That was funny.
I'll put it this way. I mean, you got your main four. You got all the world title matches set.
Mm-hmm.
You got Bailey set with, she's going after Io. You got Rhea and Becky. You got Cody and Roman. You got McIntyre and Seth. You got all that set right now. I mean, yeah, you can enjoy that ride to see how those feuds transpire going into Mania. But you also got to start. You guys are talking about AJ and LA Knight and Orton and KO and
Sami Zayn on the Raw side. Where does he go? Gunther. Where do you go there? Chad Gable. You have some guys that are kind of like almost like a baseball team trying to figure out what position they should play, more or less.
It's kind of like it's going to be exciting to see how they put the rest of Mania together. I mean, you got 2 nights. I've been hearing some BS over the last couple of days that Mania is supposed to be. You're looking at like maybe 10 matches per day. Like it's going to be a long show.
Wow, 10 matches per day. Now, can someone sit through that? I mean, that's a long show. I mean,
Well, for what I understand, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but they said it's going to start earlier.
How early can it start?
The pre-show is supposed to start at 6 p.m. Eastern time. The main show starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Now, usually they start the pre-show at 7. I don't know if that's still.
And also, you're in Philadelphia. The weather, guys, right? April 6th could be weird. It could be beautiful or it could be 35 degrees. I mean, April in Philadelphia is like hit or miss. I mean, it's been a mild winter mostly here for us, but you never know. April's, still not out of the woods of anything.
I mean, you're talking about all these matches. They got main event spots popping up with the titles. You got, there's a whole rumor mill of a whole plethora of legends that are maybe going to make an appearances at
Craven Rage might be making an appearance. I hear Craven Rage might be making an appearance at Legends.
Yeah, he's going to be all in the nosebleed section. That's what he pawned his mask to get a blood seat.
He's a champion now. He's a champ. But go ahead, Coach. I digress. I was trying to.
Maybe you should pawn that belt to get a better seat. Anywho, you got people rumored to be there like Hogan. Undertaker's even rumored to be in there.
Undertaker did the one-man show at Perth. I mean, so I would.
Right, he did. But Mick Foley, they got these legends that are.
Well, Foley's kind of trained. He really is serious about a comeback. I mean, Foley, he's really serious about it. He seems like he's.
Hell in a Cell.
They like to showcase their legends, right? They like to at least give them.
Foley would make sense. Philadelphia, although he's not Philadelphia, he's ECW. Foley would make sense. Undertaker would make sense. It's Undertaker.
I know there's a lot of talk right now where there are people trying to work a deal to get, and I heard this 2 days ago. And I didn't know if it was legit, but I heard some more things that may consider it to be legit. There's a lot of people in the company right now trying to work a deal out with Tony Khan to get Dustin Rhodes at Mania.
I find that fascinating because if you read Twitter, maybe Randy saw the same thing. Kevin Nash wanted to show up for Sting's final match, and WWE wouldn't let him though. You sure? After that, I mean, WWE. I would have thought Kevin Nash isn't an active talent for freaking 10 plus years.
He said he's a WWE guy. He said he is a WWE guy that he doesn't want to.
But do you think conversely, Tony Khan would allow, even though I know the magnitude of it, but after
I don't know.
that,
I don't know how.
Okay.
I don't know how important Dustin Rhodes' contract is. I don't even know the terms of his contract. None of us do.
well, he was in a big spot last weekend where he was with wrestling with the offspring of the Von Erichs. I mean, he's still somewhat of
that's
a
also
factor.
where the Dean Ambrose Moxley thing comes into play, because I heard on the counter side of that maybe it's not Dustin that shows up, but Seth calls in another Shield member, because he mentioned Shield, to help Cody.
And Moxley has a contract coming up?
I don't know. I don't watch AEW's product. I haven't in a couple months, but I know that Moxley's not, for what I do understand, and if I'm wrong, tell me, Moxley's not the main event guy right now. He's not popping off
really
like he did when he got in there.
But that's because everybody they sign in AEW, they all are almost like collect dust. They can't figure out where to put them back in and out of.
You got a locker room full of Austin Theories. You don't know what to do with everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. I wouldn't disagree with that.
But there's just all this rumbling started. There's people and there's sources that I talked to. There's all this rumbling that talked about the possibility of Dustin or Moxley showing up to aid Cody. And then there's all this rumbling that, I don't know if you.
Why not MJF instead?
I don't know if you've spoken about it, but the whole fact that The Rock was on SmackDown and he did about
it on Friday,
right?
show, Randy.
And I'm like, The Rock turning on Roman to set up Rock versus Roman, so you still get that match, maybe. But right now, it's like TB says, it's like all of us are just going to have to sit back and watch, because right now, and I said this a few weeks ago, WWE has got everybody on they threw the line out and they're dragging that fish hook along and they're grabbing everybody with it. Everybody worldwide is caught up on what Mania is going to be this year, and the only way to find out is to
tune in,
stay on that hook, and
tune in and watching before.
Right,
Randy.
That's why I stopped focusing on people were asking me.
I know my brother is actually going to Mania. Yep.
I think people were asking me yesterday, like, what do you think is going to happen with the world title matches? Like, it's after my friend Lewis was asking me about that. He was after Chamber. He was like, "What do you think? What do you think?" I'm like, it's irrelevant now. The title matches are set. Now you need to worry about the rest of the card. We all know what's going to happen with Cody and Roman are fighting. The women have their title matches set. Seth and McIntyre, they're all set. It's just watching the rest of the feud unfold. But the rest of the card, what's going to happen with the rest of the card? That's the rest of the hook. What's the pre-show? What's the main card going to be?
So we have 6 SmackDowns and 5 Raws. That's the count. It's 6 SmackDowns and 5 Raws. And that's what we're going to find. Before I get to Randy and what he wanted to say, then we'll get to closing thoughts. Ethan would like to say, honestly, Tom, since Cody challenged The Rock, he should probably accept his challenge, but he would probably say that he would want the match, the Raw after WrestleMania 40. But we spoke tonight that The Rock's not wrestling on Raw and SmackDown because he hasn't wrestled on Raw or SmackDown since George Bush's first term as president. What a scary thought. 2003. I mean, that's 21 years ago. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, not to get political, but I don't think that that's going to happen. Just raising the point of The Rock's not wrestling on Raw, but I understand where you're coming from, Ethan, on it. And thank you always, Ethan, for your hard-hitting comments. But Randy, did you want to say anything else to look for before I get to
I need to coach Chris, the only Craven. I do believe there's a lot of different things what's going to happen with the card going forward, because the big parts are set. Now we get the little things, most likely on kind of one-on-one matchups. Like, are we going to see Bianca Belair and Tiffany Stratton go after it? Are we going to see anything with Jade Cargill? My guess is going to be post-Mania. The big thing I'm interested.
How about Braun Breaker?
Braun Breaker. He's another one. Listen, this Friday night where Santos Escobar and Carlito are going at a street fight.
Andrade, where does he go?
Is he going to go fighting Santos, or are we going to see a possible return of Rey Mysterio if he's ready to return with him and Andrade go against Santos and Dom? Who knows? But just to add on Chris's point about them talking to AEW, I personally think Dustin is a bigger grab than it is for John Moxley, because I think the Shield kind of makes sense, but I think in the terms where Cody needs backup and this whole thing is about family, bloodline, it just, if you want to have the right backup with this whole talk of Rock saying, you don't disrespect our family, this, that, Dustin the only answer to me there. That I would have to think like they just try tooth and nail to get him, but I know Tony Khan can be better. Have we seen his crybaby rants on Twitter at some point? But that's the conversation for another day. And I'm just interested what The Rock's going to say, because what he's going to address with Cody, and then are we going to see this friction between Rock and Roman now? Because we saw the first week these two are on the same page, but as I said earlier in the show, is Roman going to come up and say, I'm still the guy here. I have this. Back, you follow my lead.
Well, we spoke about it on Friday's show. We spoke about it tonight. Who is the alpha? Who is the 1A in that? You know, The Rock don't. He said Roman. Randy said Roman tonight.
Right now, Roman is the alpha because he has the title.
The title doesn't mean shit. I heard you earlier. You said that he has that title. No, he hasn't. That title's been made. That title's been made for decades.
But he's been champion 3.5 years. You know,
so Hulk Hogan was longer. Bruno Sammartino was longer than that. Like that title has been like made.
But the one thing,
you know what I mean. Now it gives credibility to Roman, sure, but the championship, the WWE championship, is not a title that needs to be made like it needs to be proven worthy. It's
you got 30 seconds, and I'll go to Randy. Go ahead, jump in.
It's been made. When you come to the family, you mentioned family. This is a Roman thing is about family. When you look at the Roman, the bloodline, Roman may be a tribal chief, but you got The Rock as a high chief, which is bigger than Roman. So when you talk about who's the alpha in the family, it's The Rock. It's The Rock.
Well, if you were measuring mainstream success in the entire history of the sport, The Rock has to be the number one, just in mainstream. So I'm not talking about wrestling championships, wrestling matches, wrestling wins. There is nobody in this sport's history that has done what The Rock has done from a mainstream perspective. We all could agree on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But but when you talk about the family, that's what this is about, right? The bloodline family, right?
Yeah.
Versus the Rhodes family. When you come to the bloodline, the Noi family, the Samoan dynasty, The Rock is a higher moniker, and he's farther up the tree than Roman is by far.
Yeah, I think that would not be debated.
So Alpha, as far as their family goes, Alpha, Rock's got it.
I want to give Randy a thought, then we'll get to closing thoughts. Go ahead, Randy.
I definitely do agree with what you said there, Chris. Like, Rock definitely holds the higher ground with where he come, all he done. But the one thing where Roman is, he's been here for the last 3 years. He's been the top guy longer than The Rock. He's been more successful in terms of The Rock because in his wrestling terms, not in professional, in his wrestling, because Roman hold the title for 3 in some years. You look at all Rock's reigns. Rock could never hold that title. And the other thing,
what was his longest run as champion? I want to say 4 months, maybe? Was it 4 months?
It wasn't long. And then the other thing as well, where the other thing I'm going to add, Tom, is we talked about this last week on Friday, was Stone Cold. When his era, Rock had to always compete with Stone Cold being the one guy. There'd always be a 1A and B. But in the last 3 years, it's been obvious.
Although interesting, Cody said tonight that The Rock sold the most tickets in history, but did he leave out Stone Cold? Because Stone Cold, I thought, was the 1A in that era, right? 98, 99, 2001.
You can't compare it.
No.
You can't compare it now to then.
But it's Eagles.
But Cody made a point tonight.
Eagles,
Coach Cody made a point tonight saying that The Rock sold the most tickets in history. Yeah. He left out Stone Cold. That's all the point was that, he left him out.
They have.
And I'm just saying it's the battle of the Eagles. Where Roman had this overinflated ego. Even
so did The Rock. Right, and The Rock stopped also in 2003.
Yeah, but The Rock continued to come back for periodic moments. Steve didn't.
He couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, what is
We
the
know
Rock?
why.
I would love to see Austin and Cena.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
took him
listen,
19 years to make one comeback.
I don't know. I understand why Cody did it, but I think that if you were you looked at the body of, even if you weren't in the Attitude Era, Austin was number 1A over The Rock. He was 1A.
Well, yeah, Austin was the king of that time, but I agree. Speaking of, I mean, I'll agree with Austin because Austin's publicly said this. Today's roster couldn't hang with the Attitude Era roster.
Oh, for sure.
You really can't. You say Roman is more successful than The Rock. Sure, with what he's done now, yeah. Put Roman in the Attitude Era, he'd have sank.
Oh, especially listen, because you had guys again, like X-Pac, who are very high on the card, very reputable talent. Kane wasn't really a world champion. You had the Undertaker, Mankind, Ken Shamrock.
The company repackage Roman and try to shove us down his throat for like 5 years. In the
But
Attitude Era,
now listen, it's also
he had 6 names by now and been the
But
4
it's also,
different
remember,
companies
it's
at the end of the 90s.
a factory line of talent now. People come out and they're reading off a script for promos. Those guys went out there back in the day and it was like, you're on live TV. Who knows what they say? That's a different. You can't compare to 20 years ago. But obviously, we could.
We already know Roman can't do a promo without having help.
Well, there's a lot of people that could probably say the same thing. Even people that come on the Sportswire that are wrestlers, they can't even come on the platform here either and do that. But that's here nor there.
Right, Craven Rage.
But hey, The Rock, according to John Cena, The Rock got to look at his notes where John Cena doesn't. So,
well, there you go.
I got to throw that in there, Chris. Sorry.
There you go. Speaks to it. And obviously, we're going to talk more about this Friday after SmackDown. We're going to be back on the air. We'll talk the first half of the show. We'll talk SmackDown, Raw. We'll bring the regular Sportswire radio guys, and we'll see how many people stay interested in when they talk baseball spring training. I still don't know what's there to talk about in the world of baseball, but
we're still talking about other sports.
Boo!
Are we?
Well, by the way,
this is gaming season, right? Baseball's down the road.
It's in less than 4 weeks, and the guys they want to come on, and we'll see how many people hit the snooze button. Let me put it that way. But there are guys want to come back. But we are actually getting into live.
I mean, are we still talking about football? Like, are we getting?
No, I'm not talking football no more. There's no more football. I mean, there's no more football. But I will say real quick before we get to closing thoughts, we are trying to look at more live elements on sports. We did some live matches. I've done some commentary on. We're looking at some maybe. If it's a way to connect, we're looking at live college sports to stream. So we are actually trying some different things that might actually replace some of the Friday stuff show that people may not want to tune into. But, we'll see. The guys will speak, and how many people will leave after we talk wrestling, well, that's, we'll find out. But we are looking at some different options. We've been doing some live commentary, Coach. We had a match, obviously, DKW IMF a few weeks ago, and we had some live matches we've called on the air. I'm looking at maybe some live college sports to stream. I speak with some of the colleges, and they kind of like my idea. Now I have to basically convince the right person. I've got one person on my side. Now I've got to get the big honcho in a couple of colleges. Well, we'll see. Stay tuned, but I won't tip my hand yet because I don't have to. But I'm going to get to closing thoughts, which I will tip my hand to because we're going to be back here right after SmackDown for sure. I'm looking forward to that. But first, I'm going to TBK because he's got something to say for sure in his closing thoughts, and I want to turn it over to you. I was going to say we can plug your social media.
Crying out loud, say it already.
Floor is yours. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
You don't know if I have anything to say.
But James Marshall wouldn't have anything to say. That's a different topic for a different time.
But anyway, yeah. So closing thoughts would be, I mean, I'm going to have to change my name from TBK to TBR because I'm going to sound like the broken record up until it happens. I've said it. I'll say it again. I'll continue to say it until WrestleMania. This WrestleMania, Roman must lose in spectacular fashion. It has to happen, or you have wasted a 3.5-year story. So the fact of the matter is, once again, we're sticking with the old moniker. Anything that can happen will happen. Never say never. If we get Dustin Rhodes to, so Cody can, be like, I told you, I've been telling you that wrestling has more than one royal family. Boom, we get, you've been talking about your family. Well, here's my family type thing. That would be dope. It would be awesome. And it would be a hell of a move for WWE to be able to pull off. Every single pay-per-view, every single WrestleMania has been billed as the biggest WrestleMania ever. This time, they actually have to mean it. They have to prove it. It has to be the biggest one because, like I said, we've had this man shoved down our throat for too long. This story has gone frontwards, backwards, left way, sideways, whatever way you want to go with it at this point. You got to wrap it up. It's got to be big. It must be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So again, I'm taking the Rock's advice. Well, I can't shut up because I'm on the radio with you guys, so I have to freaking talk. But I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna enjoy the ride as long as it goes with Cody winning. Because if he doesn't, like I said, they will kill Roman Reigns. But like I said, I mean, hey, I maybe I can speak for the rest of you guys. I'm enjoying being a fan right now. Okay. I'm enjoying actually watching the product. And I think that is the most important thing for WWE right now is having given all the allegations. I know we're not going to get into that. So just don't cut me off. Given all the allegations, given all the crazy crap going on right now, if I'm the WWE, my main concern is having the fans focus solely on the product and nothing else.
I think that those are pretty well thought out comments. And I think Michael Cole even used the line tonight. It kind of maybe gave you a clue about finally finishing the story with kind of like almost a closed, interesting points. Great stuff. Looking forward to seeing you.
I think Cody's going to win with one crossroads. That's it. That's fact.
Bionic elbow.
You'll have to find out. We'll talk about it on Friday's show.
Shattered dreams. He's going to steal his brother's moves. That Roman's done.
You know what? Maybe if it was Stardust, I would have believed that. But, Coach, obviously I'm giving you the floor, and I'm looking forward to a Friday back with you guys as well. And I turn it over to you, my friend, and anything else you want to plug, share, or say, fire away.
Hopefully I'm here Friday, man. My work schedule here recently is
well, if you're not, then I'll just say I hope you're here Friday. And if not,
I've been doing this graveyard shift, and it's been running me rampant.
Oh, wow.
But I'd say off of what TBK said about being a fan right now, I'm loving that part of it. That's why I'm real excited to see how the rest of the card and transpires. That's why I brought that up. I think I also agree with the whole Cody thing and the finishing the story. This is something. It's now or never. If you don't do it now, I mean, there's no build up. After Mania, if you don't have a different chapter of the entire company, like in general. The whole
can't keep going and coming up short.
You have to come up with another dynamic. The road has to turn. You have to make a turn now. I think they're going to do that. I would not be surprised if every world title changes at Mania this year. Like to take it on a different direction. Now, I'm not saying that Becky will get it. I do agree that maybe it'll turn into a multiple match. Maybe you'll get a fatal four-way between Nia, Liv, Rhea, and Becky because after what happened with Liv going off.
Yeah, that's Becky, the one I feel. That's the one title that might change and being into a triple threat. Yeah, we talked about that.
But as a fan, I mean, right now there's a lot of exciting things happening. You got, and like you said, you still got what 5 weeks left?
5 Raw, 6 SmackDowns.
So you got 5 weeks left to put together the rest of Mania. And Paul Levesque is working his ass off with the rest of the company to get this shit done. I'm pretty sure they've already got their Mania set in their heads, behind the scenes. Like, they've already know what they're doing. So, I mean, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. Over the next few weeks, we're going to get to see everything unfold. We're going to see the rest of the card get put together. I will say that I do believe that they need to push LA Knight. And I know you guys talked about that earlier about the title with everything. And I think a singles title for LA would definitely give him that bump and give him that, like you were saying, all right, you've put the time in, we're gonna back you, we're gonna trust you with a title hold. But Mania, I think, also needs to be a time where a few other talents are showcased. I think Braun Breaker needs a spot where he's showcased. I think Jade needs a spot where she's showcased. And it's kind of like when Chamber ended the way it ended. I'm still feeling. I'm feeling maybe Bianca versus Jade. Maybe that's a testament of the two women, of those two powerhouse women going at it. Because Bianca doesn't need any achievement. She don't need a title. She doesn't need any.
No.
She doesn't need something to make her feel relevant at Mania.
She had
Bianca
it for too long anyway. Yeah. Doesn't need a title. Doesn't need
maybe she comes in and puts Jade over. Give Jade that bump. You know what I mean? Coming in. I don't know.
Shock and awe. Yeah.
Yeah. The LA Knight AJ thing, they're probably going to do that at Mania. I don't know if they're going to actually give him a title at Mania. Unless they do, like you said, a multiple man match where it's a bunch of people at once. Maybe. I think you're going to get Orton versus Logan. I think you're going to get LA versus AJ. I think that's going to be it. I think they're going to figure out maybe Kevin Owens will get thrown in the mix somewhere between those two matches. But I don't see that. I think the excitement of that is going to be the people winning. Like LA wins, everybody gets excited. Orton puts Logan down, people are going to get excited. They may be throwing. They may do that. They may throw Orton the title just to give him a rub. Just to give him that.
Yeah, he had the title before he got hurt. I guess you make a fair point. Look, those are obviously things that we could certainly see, and
you mentioned Ray. They didn't need to give that to Ray. They didn't need to get the belt to Ray. Ray's legendary status is beyond. You're talking multiple decades of a career here. But they didn't have to give it. But they gave it to him kind of as a. Let me give you something. You're putting in. Let me give you something back.
He's a guy that almost everybody talks about as an influence. He's more than what he's done in wins and championships, for sure. And, those are things that Randy Orton will see if he accomplishes. We'll talk about that for sure on Friday's show. And I hope that you join. I want to certainly give you the final thoughts tonight.
One last thing.
One last thought.
Because I saw it. Do you guys think that it might be the Judgment Day or part of the Judgment Day against DIY and Truth or some sort of mix up like that in a 6-man or an 8-man Mania? That was interesting to me to see that.
Yeah,
that was like, I love R-Truth. I'm sorry, I love R-Truth.
No, it's not R-Truth.
Work. I like what they do with him, and I really hope they showcase him at Mania because he hasn't had a good Mania showcase moment
in a while. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I could see that. Yeah, that's a good point. We could certainly see that somewhere in the middle of the card here. And TBK says regeneration.
Yeah, right. Right. I was dying laughing.
Good point. Yes, good point. That certainly you could see all that here. And Randy, I'm going over to you for some closing thoughts and anything else you want to plug, share, or say. And I'm looking forward to Friday. And thank you as always. And I echo Ethan. It was a great podcast being with great people that are on this platform. And I turn it over to you, Randy. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? Floor is yours.
Thanks, Tom. Always a pleasure working with TBK and Chris, the only Craven. So got you there.
The only Craven.
Yeah, the only Craven. TBK thing, like, it's an exciting time to watch wrestling. Like, I think I told you, Tom, I watched the damn Elimination Chamber press conference. That's how exciting.
Yeah, we talked about it on Friday's show. Yeah,
to watch wrestling right now. I know you have your naysayers out there saying, "Oh, WWE couldn't fill the arena. There was a lot of empty seats." Listen, WWE wrestling is at its highest right now going to WrestleMania. I can't remember a time it's been this exciting. There's so many different angles you want to watch. If you don't want to watch it, hey, there's other promotions you can watch right now. But this is why WWE is at the top, because they can do stuff like this. We got a TBK. We got like The Rock said, we got to shut our mouths and enjoy the ride, because this has been a fun ride, and it's just going to keep getting better and better till Mania.
It's Mania season, and they're popping off good. This year, they're popping off. The hype's starting to build good.
For sure. And you can follow, obviously, all these great guys here on Sportswire Radio on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579.
Don't follow me. I'll think you're stalking. That's weird.
So you don't want me to follow you?
I'm kidding.
You don't want me to follow me? After all, I did have this that, you guys.
Hey, I wonder, is this a collector's item now? Because, he's retiring. Like,
Well, I did see somewhere on Instagram there's like a week of like Sting products to purchase or something like that. I don't know if anybody saw that on Instagram, and there was somebody hawking a whole bunch.
I'm sad he's going. I can't. I'm
Yeah,
sad.
well, we're gonna definitely talk about that. Hopefully, you're here on Friday's show. But if you are on sportswire.org, we're going back to your regularly scheduled program, whatever it might be. And these guys will be back Friday. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And I was joined by Randy Dillon, host of the Hockey Fan Chat, Sports by Radio Hall of Famer, fellow Sports by Radio Hall of Famer, also BWA Hall of Famer, the real Chris Craven, Coach Chris Craven, the only Craven as he may say, and also TBK, host of the Be More Talkative podcast. And again, we'll certainly find more of that as well, maybe on Friday's show with the coach. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global relation that is Sports Wire Radio.